Welcome to APTN National News. I'm Savannah Kelly. The Assembly of First Nations annual summer meeting is wrapping up today in Winnipeg. There was an emergency press conference held by the Mathias Colomb Cree Nation on the ongoing evacuation from that community due to wildfires. There was also a discussion on repatriation of historical artifacts. APTN's Fraser Needham is at the Assembly and he joins me now. Thanks for joining us, Fraser. First of all, what did Mathias Colomb have to say about the evacuation?
Okay, well, just to back up for a sec, I guess, of course, as we've talked, the federal government anyway has been talking about, the Trump tariffs and the One Big Economy Act. It's all been the economy. In the background, of course, we have these wildfires that are affecting a lot of First Nations this summer, right? And one of them, of course, is Mathias Colomb Cree Nation here in northern Manitoba that's now been out of their community in order, I think, about more than 3 months. It's a long time, and so they're getting frustrated. And I think what's at issue is they held this emergency press conference this morning, but they want to get back in their community and they need power. The power line's out, and they want to buy a $8 million generator so they can return. And in the meantime, in these 3 months, they've had, members have lost. They can't have proper funeral services, obviously, because they're not there. And also they're worried about the infrastructure there. The longer it goes into winter, what's going to happen? Pipeline, things freeze and that. So, but they recently received a letter from ISC, Indigenous Services Canada, saying that they believe it's Manitoba Hydro that should pay for these generators. So they're very frustrated, obviously, and it's kind of, I thought it was a bit ironic as they were having this emergency press conference. There was a pre-recorded statement being played in the main assembly from ISC Minister Mandy Galmasti. So it just kind of shows maybe the government's a little bit out of touch, perhaps, or they feel anyway, with some of the major issues going on the ground, and that really is the wildfires affecting First Nations continues to across all of Canada.
Mm-hmm. And what came out of the discussion on repatriation of historical artifacts?
Well, as we know, these artifacts, First Nations artifacts, are like all over the place, right? Some of them are in the Vatican in Rome. Some of them are at the now shuttered Hudson Bay Company, or in possession, and also some of them are over in the Museum of History that is over in Gatineau, Quebec. And so what they want to avoid is having them auctioned off, or they're rightfully First Nations artifacts, right? They should be returned to the communities, and there's no real national strategy on this, which is needed. And so right now, it's really a lot of local communities that are kind of taking the lead, and they hire sort of people to look into this, various people, experts, but they really don't have the money or not even the expertise to do this, and they want a federal strategy that aligns with the United Nations declarations on the rights of Indigenous people to do this. And so we heard from Terry Teague, Regional Chief of BC, this morning on that, and it's a pressing issue.
And finally, what's ahead for this afternoon?
Well, what's ahead, of course, is it has to end at some point, and it's supposed to end at 2 p.m. There's not a lot of resolutions still that haven't been. I think I counted. I had to go to this press conference, but 4 or 5 they were kind of got through yesterday. So there was about 50, on the card. So they're probably not going to get to all of them, but people have to leave. The chiefs have to go back to their communities and fly in. So we'll see how that ends. And there's supposed to be the final closing remarks from National Chief Cindy Woodhouse-Neepanak, and then they'll close.
Well, we'll have to end it there, but thanks again for joining us, Fraser, and we'll have more coverage of the final day of the Assembly on tonight's news. To developing news in Manitoba, where there's been a mass casualty event in Hollow Water First Nation. Manitoba RCMP say early Thursday morning, multiple people were stabbed in the nation. Police are confirming that at least 8 victims have been transported to hospital. 1 victim is an RCMP officer, and 1 victim, the suspect's sister, is deceased. The suspect himself is also deceased. The incident comes on the 3-year anniversary of the mass stabbing in James Smith Cree Nation in northern Saskatchewan, though RCMP say so far this incident happened on purely coincidence. Julia Ross reports.
Early this morning, members of the Hollow Water First Nation awoke to devastating and tragic news within their very tight-knit, loving community.
According to Manitoba RCMP, the first initial call came in at 3:44 a.m. Thursday morning in the Hollow Water First Nation, located about 200 kilometers northeast of Winnipeg.
Early this morning at 3:45 a.m., a First Nation safety officer contacted the RCMP to advise that 30 minutes prior, an assault had taken place in Hollow Water First Nation. He advised that the suspect had fled the scene and emergency medical services were requested to attend.
Then, at 5:53 a.m., RCMP received a call about a potential stabbing in the community, and multiple officers were dispatched. When they arrived at the scene, multiple individuals were suffering from stab wounds, and RCMP were alerted to a second residence with additional victims also suffering from stab wounds.
The families were very close to me. And my deepest condolences to the family right now. So I'll pray as hard as I could for their recovery. And that's all I'd like to say right now. Community to get together, do their prayers, support one another right now.
8 people, ages 18 to 60 years old, were injured early Thursday morning. 6 were transported by ground ambulance, while 2 were airlifted by STARS. An 18-year-old woman who was killed was the sister of the suspect. The suspect has been identified as 26-year-old Tyrone Simard from Hollow Water First Nation, who is also now deceased.
In total, 8 community members ranging in age from 18 to 60 years of age had sustained injuries during this incident. We can confirm, sadly, that an 18-year-old female has died as a result of these injuries. Following the stabbings, the suspect, who was Tyrone Simard, who was a 26-year-old male from the community of Hollow Water, fled the community in a stolen vehicle and fled south towards the community of Black River. The vehicle was located by the RCMP near Black River First Nation, traveling south on PR Highway 304. It was at this time, when the vehicle was located at approximately 6:53 a.m., that the suspect collided with the RCMP cruiser that was driving northbound towards the scene to respond. The suspect, Tyrone, succumbed to his injuries on scene.
The female RCMP officer was seriously injured when her vehicle and Simard's stolen vehicle struck one another. While Simard died of his injuries from the collision, the officer is expected to make a full recovery. Both the Manitoba RCMP and Premier Wab Kinew call the officer a hero, who was seriously hurt while protecting the people of Manitoba.
Without any doubt, she put her life at risk for the safety and security of Manitobans, and I wish to extend my heartfelt thanks to her and to all the RCMP officers who responded this morning.
One of whom is a police officer, who we're still finding out the details of what happened about, but we can say that she is a hero. We don't know the specifics yet. We will in the coming days, I'm sure. But she stopped a man on a rampage. So on behalf of the province of Manitoba, I thank her.
In a statement to APTN News, a Shared Health spokesperson confirmed that a code orange alert was declared at the Health Sciences Centre in Winnipeg, and 6 patients were transported by ground and STARS air helicopters. They added, "Our thoughts are with the victims, patients, families, and loved ones. The code orange alert was declared clear at 10:51 a.m. this morning." Julia Ross, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
If you need support today, you can call the Hope for Wellness helpline 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for counseling and crisis intervention at 1-855-242-3310 or connect to the online chat at www.hopeforwellness.ca and follow the links. The Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs have announced a new Manitoba First Nations Police Service Chief of Police and recently congratulated him on the new appointment. Inspector Jason Colin from Norway House Cree Nation is the new Chief of Police for the Manitoba First Nations Police Service and has more than 27 years of policing experience. He started his career in 1997 and has worked for several police services, including the Dakota Ojibwe Police, the Kitaskino Police, the Blood Tribe Police, and the Winnipeg Police Service. Colin was appointed the job following an extensive national search and said he is committed in promoting a modern, community-based policing based on compassion and cultural awareness. Colin replaces the late police chief Doug Paulson, who died in a house fire in Portage la Prairie last January. In a statement, the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs said they look forward to working with Chief Colin, adding, Chief Colin has demonstrated strength, humility, and commitment throughout his career, and his appointment comes at a critical time for First Nations in Manitoba. The family of Samuel Bird, the 14-year-old who went missing in Edmonton since June 1st, has not given up hope in finding their loved one, and more community members have joined in the look for him. Rapper and entrepreneur Dakota Bear, along with this group of young men, gathered in Edmonton at the Samuel Bird Command Post located in Dawson Park to aid in the family's search. Indigenous youth have also been speaking up on social media to bring more awareness to Samuel Bird, calling for more searchers and asking for those who know what happened to Samuel to come forward to police. Meanwhile, the Edmonton Police Service says it continues to investigate and said Bird's disappearance is suspicious in nature, and they continue to ask the public to send in tips on where Samuel may be. The family has continued to conduct searches throughout the city, including along the rivers and waterways. Dene rapper Northside Baby from Alberta is also lending his voice to bring Samuel Bird home.
Samuel Bird is an Indigenous boy from Edmonton who lived in Edmonton. He was 14 years old, went out one day and never came home. Now look, I'm using my platform as a way to get his name out there, to spread the word. Our youth need to get behind this so this doesn't disappear from the public eye. The less we talk about it, the more it just goes swept under the rug. Now the RCMP ain't been doing their job, bro.
Alana Bird, the mother of Samuel Bird, previously told APTN News that she received disturbing videos that appear to show her son allegedly being brutally assaulted by others. She has sent those videos and tips to the Edmonton Police Service. The Edmonton Police said they are aware of the videos and are working to determine the source and authenticity of the images. Since the beginning, Alana has been critical of the Edmonton Police for not doing enough in their investigation. If anyone knows where Samuel Bird is, you are asked to contact the Edmonton Police Service, RCMP, or Crime Stoppers. We need to step aside for a quick break, but after the break, we'll show you a new commemorative toonie that's honoring a late Indigenous artist. Welcome back. Kim Sullivan joins us now to discuss tonight's Nouvelles episode. Hey, Kim.
Hey, Savannah. Hard to believe that we're already September and it's back to school in full swing. We have an amazing story actually on tonight's show about twins who may be separated due to administrative delays with Jordan's principal and their mom who can't afford the specialized school's tuition.
We are hearing so many things about Jordan's principal delays causing problems.
Yeah, we reached out to the minister. Maybe she'll get back to us before tonight's deadline. Hopefully, but so many problems with Jordan's principal. So look forward to talking about that tonight.
And the AFN is in full swing here in Winnipeg. I'm sure you'll talk about that too.
Of course, Fraser recaps it for us on the French side as well. We have a great story about a new police station too. And Savannah, what would you say about Indigenous humor?
Well, Kim, I'd say it's ever sick. Why do you ask?
We have a new TV series in the style of Corner Glass or even The Office. So if you were a fan of that, this is going to be hitting APTN airwaves soon enough. It showcases the dry, witty humor of Indigenous folks, and we're on the red carpet for their world premiere.
Super cool. And what's the name of the series?
Pitago Stop. So keep an eye out for that. And also at the end of the show, we talk with the co-founders of Niche Media. They're the creators of this series and one of the series, I should say, because there's more than one episode. And they are behind a lot of Indigenous storytelling in Quebec and amazing folks. So we're talking to them at the end of the show.
Good stuff. And it's all happening tonight at 6:30 Eastern. See you then, Kim.
See you then.
The Innu Nation and the Nunatsiavut government say the Newfoundland and Labrador provincial government misrepresented Indigenous identity at a ceremony and unveiling of artwork at the Confederation Building in St. John's that commemorated the culture and history of the Nunatukavut Community Council, or NCC. Provincial politicians and Nunatukavut leadership attended the event, where art by an NCC artist will be on display in the lobby of the Confederation Building. Premier John Hogan said in a press release that the unveiling promotes Indigenous culture. The Innu Nation and the Nunatsiavut government, which represents the Inuit of Labrador, say they do not recognize the NCC as an Indigenous governing body. In June 2024, the federal court ruled that NCC is not recognized as an Indigenous group with Section 35 rights. Johannes Lamp is the president of the Nunatsiavut government. He says the province is acting as a surrogate for a group making false claims.
But we as Labrador Inuit, we have our language, we have our culture, we have our way of life, and we will continue to keep that because it is a value to us, and what is of value to us, we will pass down to our children and our grandchildren, and we will continue to fight hard, for what is rightfully ours.
We now want to tell you about this week's web poll question. Do you feel the Assembly of First Nations represents your community's interests? Yes, no, or unsure? You can go to our website, aptnnews.ca/poll to cast your ballot. We need to take one more quick break. Stick around. Over on the East Coast, rainy and 21 for Halifax, 23 in Charlottetown. Happy Valley Goose Bay, 16 there, Nain +7. Val-d'Or, sunny and 13 there, Quebec City, 21. Toronto, 20 degrees and sunshine there, same for Ottawa. Sudbury, rainy and 12 degrees, 10 in Kapuskasing. Churchill, 10 degrees and sunny, Thompson +8. Winnipeg, sunny and 10 degrees there, Barons River +9. Regina, 9 degrees, mostly sunny, North Battleford 10. Stony Rapids, mix of sun and cloud, 8 degrees, La Ronge +10. Hot and sunny, 29 degrees in Grand Prairie, +20 for Fort Chip. 25 and sunshine in Calgary, +27 in Edmonton. Vancouver, 24 and sunshine, Kamloops, 32 degrees. Fort Nelson, 29 and sunny, Smithers, rainy and 29. Watson Lake, sunny and 24, Rock River, 8 degrees. 16 and mix of sun and cloud for Wrigley, Wati, 21. Paulatuck, rainy and 4 degrees, Sax Harbor, +1. Chesterfield, mix of sun and cloud, 6 degrees, Baker Lake, 7. 1 degree in Iqaluit and Iqaluit, rainy and 3 degrees. Acclaimed Anishinaabe journalist and author Tanya Talaga is set to debut her latest documentary project at the Toronto International Film Festival next week. Nina Damadi's Red Power Rising takes a deep dive into the 1974 armed landback occupation at the Anishinaabe Park in Kenora, Ontario. For nearly 40 days, the warriors wanted improved living conditions, an end to police brutality and racism in Kenora, and they wanted Anishinaabe Park, a beloved area used by Indigenous families for years, returned to First Nations people. For more about the documentary, Creason Achkate spoke with Tanya Talaga and director Shane Belcourt.
Tanya and Shane, thank you both for joining us. Tanya, let's start with you. Why did you want to tell the story of the 1974 occupation at Anishinaabe Park?
When I first heard about the story, I was embarrassed that I didn't know about it. I found out about it when I was actually researching my second book, and I always knew I wanted to come back and tell the story of the occupation because I hadn't heard about it. And the more I found out about Louis Cameron and the Ojibwe Warrior Society and the stand they took at Anishinaabe Park, the more I realized, wow, we got to get this story out there. We got to tell our youth that we have heroes. We've got people that stand up and fight, and we need to tell the story to the world.
Shane, were you familiar with what unfolded over those nearly 40 days, and why did you want to help bring this chapter in history to a larger audience?
I had heard of this story off and on over the years. My dad, Tony Belcourt, is Indigenous rights leader for his whole life. And so I definitely sort of grown up in and around the idea of movement and that tension between grassroots and elected leadership and sort of where they can work together, where they might find conflict. People want changes, rightfully so, as quickly as possible. How do you affect change within the crown, the world, and that slow molasses that they like to kind of grind things out as? And it was just a chance, really, I think, as Tanya mentioned, not only to honor Louis Cameron, but honor his son, Tyler, as he's trying to remember and think about what did my dad do, what can I do, and what does it mean to grow up with this legacy of who we are, but also how much we love being who we are.
Mm-hmm. Tanya, there was a 50-year commemoration in June of 2024 of the occupation and renewed calls for the park to be returned to the First Nations, which still hasn't happened. Has much changed in the last 50 years in Kenora?
I wish I could say that everything's changed, but sadly that's not true. We have seen recently as well the shooting and the killing of a man in Anishinaabe Park. He was from Wapakika First Nation. We are still seeing people being treated poorly by police in the streets of Kenora. We're still seeing a fight for basic human rights, not just in Kenora, but for all of our nations, right? All throughout Northern Ontario and all through Canada. I wish I could tell you that things have changed in Kenora. They haven't, but at least we're telling the story and we're talking about it.
For sure. Shane, the doc is having its world premiere at TIFF. A lot of people have been wanting to see this film. What do you hope people take away from it?
I mean, you always hope that somebody walks away with a film about how we need to honor ourselves and stand up together, that there's a sense of a call to action, or the continued call to action to always stand up for protecting our spaces. And really, I hope that people, from a writ large kind of sense, you learn about what happened in Anishinaabe Park in 1974. And even when we were talking to people yesterday, that everybody then starts walking around. We've got a Louis Riel shirt. You should have a Louis Cameron t-shirt. You should see his beautiful face and on everyone's chest. And everybody should go, I know who that is and I know what that means. It means to stand up for us because we love who we are.
And Tanya and Shane, bonus question, when and where can our audience and us be able to watch it later down the road?
Well, we're going to be actually holding a screening in Kenora as well for community members at the Kenora Movie Theater, downtown Kenora. That's going to be hopefully in October. We're trying to make it so it's not conflicting with moose hunting season. And you will be able to see it on APTN because APTN is one of our sponsors. Yeah! So we're looking at next year sometime. I don't know the date. They haven't told me.
Hopefully sooner than later. Tanya and Shane, thank you for your time, and we appreciate it, and we hope you have a great debut at TIFF, and wish you all the best.
Miigwech.
Looking forward to seeing that one once it comes to APTN here. And that's all the time we have for your midday news this Friday. Creason will be back here in a few hours to give you a full look at the day's news. I'm Savannah Kelly. Marcy, Miigwech, thank you for joining us. Bye for now.